Hello. Hey, Alex. Hey, KF. Can you guys hear me? Hi, Derek. How are you? We have a lot to talk about. Can you guys hear me? Oh, hold on. I got an echo. Okay. Hi, B. Haves. I'm just going to wait and see if more show up before we dig into stuff. I have a video that I've clipped together with everything that I want to go through, but I clipped together everything and made the video pretty much before all the breaking news happened. Hi, Karen. Hey, Foxy Lady. I do have information pertaining to the news that broke in the video as well, but this whole live was formatted before the new breaking news and the Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito case, but we can obviously intertwine all that with our, I guess, study session. Hey, insanely confused. Thanks for being here, everyone. CDT. So, as everybody knows, here, let me just share my screen and we'll just get into some of the Brian Laundrie stuff. Everyone knows that it's come out that he's confirmed suicide as the manner of death, and the cause of death was a gunshot wound to the head. Let's see. So this was out today as well, after the news came out about his cause of death and all that. It says parents reported him missing in mid-September, and then during all that, they had said that a gun was missing from their collection at home. So it says in prior conversations, Bertolino said he also declined to comment on the firearms issue, which we know and we've heard him like be asked. I know that it was something that was asked even to law enforcement, do we know if he's armed or whatever? And I guess apparently Bertolino is saying not only did he decline to comment at the time, but he said that he didn't want to create a panic or attract armed vigilantes to Florida Nature Reserve where Brian went. It's just very weird. It says, we didn't want the public going into a frenzy on that. I don't think they considered him dangerous to anybody he met on the street. So that's concerning, obviously, because they did have a reward out for him and he was listed as a fugitive. Why it might have been helpful for anyone to know, is he armed? And it makes me wonder if the US Marshals and FBI were aware that, I'm sure they knew that the gun was missing because it was reported to them by the parents, but, why didn't the public know? Um, or did the lawyer even disclose that? I don't know. But so now that everyone's kind of caught up on that, cause of death, manner of death, suicide, gunshot wound to the head, and apparently there's a missing gun by the family's account. We don't know what type of gun. Is it the gun that was found near the campsite? We don't know. They should know more. And hopefully we get some more information soon. So now that we have, hi, Nicole, now that we have sort of the breaking news out of the way, and the update, I guess we could just, if you guys wouldn't mind going through the live stream, how I had it set up before this breaking news, but it'll still kind of work into everything that I've got. So I'll share my screen again. 1 second. So when we get, I've got, you guys are going to be like, what is Chris Watts doing on the screen? When I get to the part where I kind of go through the Gabby Petito case, I've got the everything, or the sheet of paper that everyone's kind of sharing, the document that says, you know, they tested the dental records and DNA, and it's confirmed to be Brian. We'll get to that, but so Brian Enton said 4 guns, 3 were found, 1 was missing. Okay. It makes me wonder if that's, you know, when we saw them go through the Mustang and the camper, if, you know, that is when everything was going down about firearms and what was missing and where they keep them, etc. But yeah, I don't know, Bejaves, why they had 4 guns, but not sure. Maybe the father was a collector. All right, so let me explain why Chris Watts is on the screen. For those, first off, who in chat does not know the Chris Watts case? Because I'm kind of going to use this as like my base for everything else that we discuss. Well, let me catch you up to speed real quick. He's in prison, serving 5 life sentences. He took a plea deal, so there was no trial. But the plea deal, he confessed to killing his entire family, including his wife. A lot of people have compared Brian Laundrie to Chris Watts, you know, just from what friends have said about him, and, you know, the quiet guy, nice. So, hey, Brooks, what I'm going to do is pretty much in this interview, which was recorded in 2018, he is pleading for the return of his missing family. And at this time, obviously, nobody knows the details. They haven't found the bodies yet. And everyone knows that this case, and everyone knows that when he's talking, he's just lying. And it's interesting to see him pretend to be concerned, knowing that he, you know, had part in their death and hiding their bodies, etc. So Brooke said, I'm trying to eat looking at that face, and she did the throw up emoji. Yeah, that's the face you make after listening to NK's creepy giggles. So, listen, this is perfect comparison for somebody who's lying, who's on television. So what we're going to do is just look at Chris, watch his eyes, watch, you know, his lips and mouth, and we're pretty much just going to compare his body language during this like uncomfortable, stressful interview, because he's lying and he's guilty. But at this point in 2018, nobody knows that. So we're just going to take mental notes of how he performs under stress and pressure. And then we're going to go through and we're going to compare the Laundrie Lawyer's interview, where he has similar mannerisms to a lying Chris Watts. And we're going to look at Don Wells, and we're just going to compare. So we'll get right into it.
Celeste. Hold you 4, Bella's 4, Celeste is 3.
Can you guys hear? I just want to make sure you can hear Chris.
And so, how many times did you try to call her?
I called her 3 times, texted her about 3 times just to say, what's going on. Like after I called her and texted her once, it's like maybe she was just busy. Like she had just gotten back, like everybody's fine. And then walked in the house and nothing was vanished. Nothing was here. I mean, she wasn't here. The kids weren't here. Nope. That's why last night was just horrible. I couldn't do it. I want everybody to just come home. Like wherever they're at, come home. That's what I want. Nothing.
And my last question, if you have any though, so feel free to step in. My last question is, if your wife can see this, if she can watch this, what would you like to tell your wife and your kids?
Shanann, Bella, Celeste, if you're out there, just come back. Like if somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again. This house is not complete without anybody here. Please bring her back.
That's it. I can take that mic off you.
Okay, so everyone pretty much sees that, there was a lot of blinking, a lot of biting of his lips, licking his lips, perhaps a little bit of, you could tell if you look closely, his respiratory is kind of increased. You could see like his chest kind of going up and down. So now that we've got like a feel for somebody who we know is guilty and who's under stress and on a television interview, now we can go through and just watch the rest. And in my opinion, which it's been speculated that the Laundries did do some sort of plea deal to get less time. It's kind of been talked about for a while. Like there was an article, I think, in the end of October that was talking about how a family friend, they didn't name their name, but close people said that they were convinced that the Laundries made a deal. So everyone's seen this interview, but if you just actually look closely at his facial features when he's under stress, is he lying about not thinking that they made a deal? I don't know. But honestly, I think that he looks like he's trying to hide something.
There has been some speculation out there, and again, I understand you don't like to talk about speculation, that maybe some type of deal was cut, that they promised to cooperate with investigators to get some type of immunity. Any truth to that?
I can tell you no, there's no truth to that. What I can tell you is that conversations were had several weeks ago with the FBI with respect to certain charges. When questioned and when communications were had between myself and the FBI, I think it was realized that charges were not appropriate. There was never a threat. There was never a coercion. There was never a deal cut. But
we're talking about misdemeanor charges?
Would not have been
Steve, misdemeanor or felony charges?
I don't know what level of crime or charge was in the mix. What I can tell you is.
So if you notice closely, he's kind of not fumbling through his words because he's very quick with his phrases and knows, to keep his composure for the most part. But here and there, you kind of see him like licking his lips, like more than when he does the rest of the interview. Maybe he was getting dry mouth because he's lying. This obviously is just speculation in my opinion, but it seemed as though in those moments when he's being asked these questions, he's blinking a lot more and he's kind of tucking his lips in, just like we've seen Chris Watts do. And like we've established, Chris is a liar and he was lying in that interview in 2018. So just watching his mannerisms while he's under stress and trying to deceive everybody, it kind of leads me to mimic, well, look at all these other people and kind of evaluate them as well. And a lot of people I see in chat are saying that they think that a deal was made. And we'll get into what a former FBI agent says about that later as well.
There were conversations that were had, and I definitely want to be clear. There was no threat. There was no coercion on behalf of the FBI. There was no deals. There were certainly conversations, as one would expect happens in every criminal case. You always have conversations with the prosecutors about how the case may play out, as to what may be on the table, so to speak. Yes, those conversations were had, but no deal was cut. The Laundries have been cooperating with law enforcement, both locally and federally, since day one with respect to Brian.
So I'm just curious if you guys think that he's being truthful and that no deal was cut. Press 2 if you think that he's being, if he's lying here on television and he's trying to hide that a deal was cut. Press 1. And thank you for the super chat, Brooks. I really appreciate it. So, this here was a post from Brian Enton's Twitter, and it was posted days ago, but there was no updates up until today. So it was still kind of what we had known, the last thing that we knew. And it said, many people are asking for Gabby Petito and Laundrie updates. There isn't much, but here are a few nuggets. The FBI investigation is still open. Northport PD are not releasing reports, videos that they had requested because the case is still open. Says, while the FBI says they've identified Laundrie based on dental records, which now we know it's been dental and DNA. Now, this is old news, but now we know that it's suicide with a gunshot to the head. So the investigation is, with the credit card information it's saying, is still active. Also, his fraud charge that he was wanted for. So I guess they're waiting on the death certificate for certain things to kind of be wrapped up.
Jennifer, you and I were out there together in Northport. We were in the swamp together. We became friends from that experience. We were getting new information every single day, basically, updates either from police or the FBI or other sources. And then basically, boom, it all just stopped. And we've learned really nothing new in quite some time, yet we know the investigations are ongoing. What do you think the holdup is?
Well, initially, Brian, to understand why there is this slow incoming of information, we have to understand that initially, up until they found Brian Laundrie's body, this was a grand jury investigation. 23 people seated, a prosecutor, assistant United States attorney specifically involved, presenting evidence to them through witnesses such as FBI agents, actual witnesses that knew things, coroner that would come in and give information. So this is a very long and tedious process. There were grand jury subpoenas issued for cell records, for bank records, for CCTV, and more than that, everything that encompassed that investigation. So it takes days for that information to be compiled and then to be returned by an FBI agent who presents that information to the grand jury. All that was going on prior to them finding the remains of Brian Laundrie.
But Jennifer, the FBI never officially, up until this point, connected Brian Laundrie to Gabby Petito's death. Of course, they've called him a person of interest, and we've sort of put the pieces together. But don't they have an obligation at some point to come clean with the public and say, look, we think Brian did it and this is why? Because if they don't do that, aren't we all sort of left to wonder, what really happened?
Absolutely. I think actually it was really semantics when we're talking about a person of interest. Brian Laundrie was definitely the subject of this investigation from all the evidence that was out there publicly and that was supported, I believe, by evidence that was further collected by the FBI. The FBI will make a determination, not obviously through a grand jury now, because we don't need a true bill returned or no bill returned by a grand jury. They don't need to find probable cause. This case is not going to trial. But they need to let the public know, or if not, we have, in a sense, somebody who committed this murder out there. So the FBI will release some sort of presser indicating who they believe was responsible for this crime.
And one of the top questions I get, and I know you're also very active on Twitter, and we're sort of inundated with messages all the time about the Gabby Petito case because people want more information. One of the most popular ones I get is about the notebook. The notebook that was found in the Carlton Reserve near Brian Laundrie's remains. The last we heard was that they thought it was salvageable, but we don't know what messages were in it. Do you think there's going to be important information in that notebook?
Well, I have to tell you, in my career, it's been amazing what the FBI lab can do with information that has been written. They can get ink that seemingly is gone to jump back off the page. I've seen pages of notebook and paper that looks blank, but they can detect indentations that when you write, indent into the paper, and they can make those messages pop right off the page. It's amazing what they can do. We don't know the condition that the writing in this notebook was in when it was recovered. Was it pencil? Was it pen? Was it washed away? And I believe the FBI is using all their chemical techniques and other techniques to get everything they can out of that notebook. Depending on how much was written in there, Brian, you can imagine it may be a long, tedious process, but they can do it.
See, to me, that was a really interesting tidbit that she shared there because I had no idea that, I mean, obviously they have techniques and things that the regular person, civilian, doesn't have in the FBI and mechanisms and all that. But to make things that were in a notebook, or it almost reminded me of that scene in Titanic, like when they have the painting underneath the water and they're just kind of salvaging it. So that's interesting to hear because I figured if it was damaged where there was nothing written, it's just garbage. But, here we have the Laundries discovering the body and all the items, but no gun. So, I mean, maybe that's the thing is they've said perhaps that they have found a gun or there is a gun involved. But like Brooks was saying, why wouldn't they have said if a gun was found or not? And what is the point of announcing a notebook? You know what I mean? If they had the gun, you would think that they would just come out and say like, oh yeah, and we found this too. So I don't know. But if they had items that, like that water bottle and other items that civilians were going back in and finding, remember, and they were posting on TikTok and Twitter and all that, and more bones they found. It's like, I wouldn't really be surprised if there is a gun out there that they just haven't found. It seems like everything was just done half-assed. So here's just the statement saying that he died by gunshot. This was announced today. And they're mourning the loss of their son. Here is the District 12 medical examiner pretty much saying it's been confirmed with DNA and dental records that it was suicide, gunshot wound to the head. So just I'm sure everyone's seen this, but it's been included. Okay, so now we're just going to work our way into the Summer Wells case. And for those who don't know it, she is 5 years old, missing since June 15th. There's no suspects, but everybody is a person of interest, including the parents, including everybody, neighbors, everyone that was around her pretty much. And we have no information beyond what they had told us to begin with. And even then, the parents' stories seem to be changing.
No,
So
she's a good.
I know you guys have seen this. Also, it aired, I think, like a week ago on Brian Enton's News Nation. I just wanted us to compare pretty much Chris Watts, his interview that we've all established he was lying in and that he was guilty. So, you know, his blinking and rapid blinking at that, and, you know, kind of keeping his eyes closed at times longer. And it's all ways that people kind of self-soothe, like when they're under distress and just stressing out. So I was just saying, since we can compare the way that Chris was, and then we look through and we looked at so far the Laundrie's lawyer, and I feel as though he was lying in that interview. Now we're going to look at Don Wells and kind of, you know, pay attention to what he's doing. And this was kind of questions regarding Candus and her involvement. And in my opinion, I feel as though he's kind of under stress here and possibly not being truthful.
Mother, she loves her children. She's not going to allow any situation like that. The biggest mistake she might have made is maybe choosing some wrong friends, which is, you know, it happens. But other than that, no way.
Do you think any of those wrong friends could have something to do with it?
I don't know.
I know you all have had some ups and downs in your past with alcohol and drugs. Do you think one of those people that came around could have?
No, we can't go there.
Wells says he's limited in what he can say after social services took Summer's 3 brothers from the home earlier this year.
Would you mind just quickly maybe taking us for a little drive around? Just me,
Sure.
even, just so I can. I know you don't want me up there walking around, but maybe you could just drive me around.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sir, thank you,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Guys.
He initially agreed to take me on the property, but then changed his mind. He says he wants the focus to remain on Summer and finding whoever took her.
We love our daughter with all our hearts. We miss her. We'd do anything to have her back in that church with us that she's so loved.
Okay, and then before I get into that, Brooks asked if the grandmother has ever made a statement, and she's made a statement in the very, very beginning, but it was never televised, and it was only reported in some article. I'm trying to find if I had it right in my screenshots very recently, was just looking at her statement. She pretty much like calls her a beautiful baby and begs for her safe return, but nothing very revealing. If I find it, Brooks, I can send it to you. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Okay, so this is the only statement that the grandmother made, and it was on WJHL News, and it's that local news that's been covering it from the beginning. And the grandmother said, "Bring my grandbaby home. She is a lovely baby, and we're so thankful for everyone looking for her. We yelled and looked for her as much as we could. She's gone. It's devastating." So that was her one and only statement. So that's interesting though, because I'm reading it out loud and it says, "Bring my grandbaby home," as like her first sentence. It's like she's like saying it, you know, if somebody had it, like she's speaking right to that person, which is interesting. especially since she was one of the last people to have seen her safe and sound with everyone. Thank you, Derek, for the super chat. Appreciate you and all your support. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Hey, Cher. So, Brooke said, grandmother is my only hope for her being safe. Otherwise, in my opinion, she was sold. Round and round my theories go. I don't know exactly where it's going to end up for me. It's changed. It's been like a roller coaster when we have such limited information, but at the same time, the information is skewy. Yeah, share. I believe your experience. She said, y'all, Granny isn't as sweet and innocent as people give her credit for. Yeah. You can kind of tell she's rough around the edges. I don't know if it's because she's had a rough life or what. But yeah, Derek, a lot of people think that. A lot of people don't buy the sweet grandma routine. So that's good. Very strange, though. She was at some of the prayer vigils. I've seen pictures, but her leaving, I'm sorry, that's just very odd. No matter what you try to say, like if you try to give her the benefit of the doubt because it could be bringing back PTSD from when her daughter went missing, it's just, I don't know if it's enough of an excuse, in my opinion. Okay, so on the screen, sorry if it's blurry, is a screen recording that I did of Candus's Facebook page. And this was obviously the day after Summer went missing. This was posted on June 16th. And you can find this post straight at Tennessee Bureau of Investigation's Twitter page. So it's a legit Amber Alert. Well, I don't even know. Right now at this point, it was only an endangered alert, but Candus is sharing it. And just everybody has heard the dispatch call from the 911 call and how it says that Summer was last seen walking outside, and it says that Candus went for a walk. And then suddenly Candus and Don start saying that she was inside when she was last seen. So I think that here I found it interesting that, because everyone keeps saying, why did the story change? Why did it say that she was outside? Now Candus is saying she was inside and Don is saying she was in the basement. It's just interesting because we know that Candus didn't come out and speak to the media until like June 28th or 27th. So she'd been missing for over a week, like week and a half before the mother even came out to the media. So that in itself is interesting. And then we have her Facebook being kind of active, posts coming and going since June 15th. And this one, the day after, was posted. And she's allowing the post to say Summer was reportedly last seen outside of her home Tuesday evening. So at this point on June 16th, Candus is sharing that she was last seen outside. And if you go to her Facebook page, it's still there. Cher said, we need pressure on that church, y'all. I know it's taboo to do that, but I found so much wrong there. That honestly is very culty. Like, there's churches and then there's cults. And things that I've been reading about that branch, I don't mean to offend, but it seems very culty. And just some things, what was profiling? No, not profiling evil. But that other one, I can't remember. Evil Exists, maybe? No. I hate that I can't remember these YouTubers, but it's that one where he's got kind of like the robotic voice. anyways, he's been highlighting some people in the church, and it's been like really interesting. So Candace Wells, according to her Facebook here, is sharing the asking for help alert from TBI, and you can still see it on her Facebook. On June 16th, before she spoke out and before Don spoke out, after the 911 call was made, and after certain news media sources had already reported her being outside, Candace is here sharing it as she's outside. And this is before she spoke to the media. So, why, if this was wrong at that point as the mother, wouldn't she have spoke up and been like, no, you guys have it wrong. That's not what I reported her as, So this right here is actually WJHL, the local news source, and everything that people have been looking at. Evil exists, somebody said in the chat, is the name of that YouTuber. Thank you so much for letting me know. So we've been watching WJHL, and they've been interviewing the sheriff, and that's pretty much where our Summer Wells information was coming from before News Nation and Brian Enton took it over. But so this is straight up the local news that we're talking to law enforcement that night that Summer went missing. These newscasters reported that she was outside, and then here right on their Twitter pages, they're posting that she was reported last outside. So walking near her home, it says right here, she was last seen last night walking near her home. So it's like, why? In my opinion, I'm pretty much settled on the fact that the 911 call and Candace and Don's first call or first story is different than her going down to the basement to play with her toys and never saw her again. This is the other news reporter that broke the story that night in Tennessee, and says right here on his Twitter page, this is that night, 9 p.m. on June 15th. Search is underway for a missing 4-year-old. Again, they might have given them the wrong information now that the time has gone by. And luckily, YouTubers like Cher and Mr. Cher, Molly Golightly, and other people who have had Don on and Candace in the background or whatever, we know from Molly Golightly's live stream that they didn't even know their daughter's birthday. Remember? And they were freaking out and swearing, and they threw a huge hissy fit on Molly Golightly's channel. So now it sort of explains why she was reported as a 4-year-old. And obviously, whoever was given the first initial reportings of her being missing were giving wrong information, and it's because they didn't know her birthday, in my opinion. So crews are searching by land and by air in the Beach Creek community in the area of Ben Hill Road. Sheriff Lawson says the girl has been missing since around 6 p.m. I'm just going to look at chat real quick. Hey, Valerie. Thanks for being here. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that meth. I'm sure there's all that going on for sure. All right, moving right along.
About this, because we were trying to get Don to admit to this.
So this and I don't know if she's still in chat. This was from Alex Erickson's channel, which is linked in the description box. She did a interview with Mr. Share / Prairie Boy 77, and they were just discussing Summer Wells' case, and he had said something that I thought it just kind of like perked up my ears, and I just wanted to highlight it. And you can watch the entire interview, which was very interesting, over on Alex's channel. And like I said, it's linked in the description box, but this is just a small little clip about Mr. Share's experience with the Wells family.
Mafia thing. Say, okay, well, if we only need like 20, 30 grand, we can raise it. We can, we'll do some fundraisers and stuff and get it out there. And he kept saying, no, no, no. And then Cher said something. I'm sure it was still along those lines. And Don said, no, it goes much deeper than that. And we were like, what? It just made us wonder, what's deeper than that?
So they were kind of talking about, like he said, that cornbread mafia with him. And they were pretty much saying, just talking to them about the cornbread mafia and what they need to do possibly to get Summer back, and whatever it would take, they'll do it. Like if they need money, they'll do a fundraiser, they'll do something to get Summer back, whatever it is. And allegedly he's saying that it was sort of said that it's much deeper than that. So I'm just going to replay that in again so you kind of know more of the context behind it. And they're just kind of talking about it being more than the cornbread mafia.
We only need like 20, 30 grand about this, because we're trying to get Don to admit to this mafia thing. Say, okay, well, if we only need like 20, 30 grand, we can raise it. We can, we'll do some fundraisers and stuff and get it out there. And he kept saying, no, no, no. And then Cher said something. I'm sure it was still along those lines. And Don said, no, it goes much deeper than that. And we were like, what? It just made us wonder, what's deeper than that?
So yeah, what do you guys think about that? Yeah, I don't know. Behave says, why would the mafia specifically target her? They would have to have been tipped off or something, or somebody has some link or something. And again, I need to do more research specifically on cornbread mafia. But I just don't know. So I'm just reading chat a little bit. Maybe she owed them for drugs. I don't know. Perhaps. I mean, she clearly has substance abuse issues. Okay, so this everyone knows is the Dr. Phil clip, and I can't play like the audio from it because I'll get copyright strike from Dr. Phil. But I just thought, he doesn't even need the words. Just watch Don's body language and his face. And this is the end of the show. And it's pretty much the part where the body language experts are giving their feedback and saying, Don, it seems like we get like honest vibes from you mostly. But Candus, if you know more, you need to say something. And of course, I'm not quoting them exactly, but that's pretty much along the lines that they were saying is Don was okay for them, but Candus gives them indication that she's not being 100% truthful. And I didn't notice it the first time I'd watched this, but if you watch kind of Don's face and his blink, it's always his blinking um, when they're kind of going in on Candace and what she might know. This is his reaction. He doesn't even need to say anything, but just watch his face kind of when they're talking to Candace. Thank you, the Pink Dahlia. Hi, Amber. My feelings have been all over the place with the case. I find myself feeling total heartbreak for these people. Then the next minute, suspicious. Me too. Me too, because if I thought I was sort of surprised that the body language experts kind of thought Don was like 100%, not 100%, they didn't say that, but they were kind of giving him more of the benefit of the doubt, like of being truthful. And I was thinking like, like maybe I'd been too harsh, but then I'm like, I'd seen him like on YouTube and throwing around profanities and all that. And I'm like, that's the real Don. You know what I mean? And then there's other times where like I watched their first interviews and I'm like, man, they seem really broken up. So I totally can relate to what you're saying. Yeah, the Pink Dahlia, they know that's pretty much what it comes down to. Like whether I'm feeling sympathy or empathy towards them or whether I'm disgusted, it all comes down to the same thing, and that's they know something. So just watch Don's face pretty much. And he's nodding his head. You see that? And you can go and watch this episode yourself so you know exactly what he's saying. But I'm telling you, he's saying, we get vibes from you that you're not being truthful. And if you know more, then you need to say something. And Don was over there shaking his head, yes, and kind of doing that thing with his eyes. And we know that once again, she ends it with, she doesn't know anything. Did you guys want to see that again? Hey, Demon Child, you missed it. We had Chris Watts up here on the live stream, just his interview, but I was comparing other people in the live stream to somebody who's lying on camera, and we all know that Chris Watts lied in that porch interview. You missed it, but you'll have to go back and watch it. Hi, Crystal. Thanks for being here. Okay, so let me just show you Don again one more time. And this, like I said, is about Candace knowing more. And if she knows more, she needs to say something. So I don't know what that's about. I don't know if, they had a conversation about this, after the show or after Candace watched the show. But Don is clearly agreeing with them when they're saying, if you know more, then you need to say something. So that's interesting, I think. Now we're going to move into the last segment in case of the evening. This one, of course, is the double murder in Moab. And this one is going to be right now an open case as well. And there is no leads anywhere. There is no suspects, not even a person of interest besides, quote, the creepy guy. And if anyone knows this case, you all know what I'm talking about. Catch everybody up. 2 women married, just living life. They work in town as well. They were camping and they were creeped out by somebody who was camping near them. And yeah, they had told their friends via text message or on the phone, if we end up murdered, you'll know it was him. They didn't give any description beyond that. And yeah, we're going to go through some of these details of the crime scene. So, trigger warning. And I know it's just very sad, and it's horrific, because I think a lot of people have come to the conclusion that perhaps they were running, for their life. There was stuff that came out here. Let me pull it up. Geez, yeah, there was stuff that I was reading on this, and it was just saying, they were maybe dragged to the creek that they were in after they were killed. I mean, there's just like a lot of unknowns in a way with this case in particular, but the things that are kind of coming out that I'm piecing together are just like, it's just painting the most horrific scene. It's terrible. And there's nobody that knows anything. I guess we're still waiting on satellite imagery, and they had like a warrant or something to get satellite images at the time, and we're still waiting on some of that. This article here has Cindy Sue Hunter on it, and she'd found the bodies. She's going to go into that a little bit in this video. So,
The Truth Matters. Here's ABC4's senior crime and punishment correspondent Marcos Ortiz with tonight's Justice Files.
And thanks, Emily. It was Cindy Sue Hunter's inner voice that took her to the campsite where she came across the bodies of Kylen and Crystal. And it's taken her several months to get over that horrific scene.
I literally was basically being told I had to go. And I argued with myself all day Tuesday.
Cindy Sue Hunter sets out to look for her friends Kylen Schulte and Crystal Turner after that internal discussion. The couple are married in April, but in mid-August they disappear, and word spreads quickly in Moab. Hunter calls Sean Paul Schulte, Kylen's dad, who tells her about a disturbing text he gets from a friend.
There was a creeper dude at their campsite, and that they were going to move their location. That he was too close, he was making them uncomfortable, he had left and come back with more food and clothes.
Hunter drives on the LaSalle Loop Road south of Moab, listening to her internal voice for directions.
And I literally, it was like being screamed at, go straight, please go straight, hurry. And so I just said to myself, I'm not crazy. I am feeling this, I'm hearing this.
She keeps driving before she catches a glimpse of silver coming from her left peripheral vision. It's an SUV that's similar to the one Crystal and Kylen drive. She heads towards it, not sure if it's theirs.
Then I saw the bunny cage under a tree and was pretty confident that I had found the girls.
She makes 2 calls.
So that was an exact picture of, so I don't know, CDT, if you wanted to take a screenshot of that, but because I noticed that they credited her photo at the top. It said Cindy Sue Hunter. So that was how she found the girl's vehicle. So that's interesting. I'd never seen that picture before.
One to police and the other to Kylen's father about what she's seen.
The tent door was open. It wasn't properly opened. It was kind of thrown open. I saw an article of clothing behind the tent, behind the trees. It just didn't feel right.
Kylen's dad's on the cell phone with her and tells her to search the campsite in hopes of finding the women. She comes across a creek near the campsite, finds discarded plastic bottles, and continues walking. Then she makes a horrific discovery.
And I started rambling, I guess, because Sean Paul's still on the phone with me. And I'm talking about the creek and how pretty it is.
But Cindy Sue Hunter finally comes to terms with what she sees. It's Kylen Schulte's dead body. But where's Crystal? That part of the story Wednesday. For the Justice Files, Marcus Ortiz, ABC4 News.
At UNICEF, we're committed to building a better future for every child, and we won't stop.
So I'm just seeing if this had any more information. I think it did. There was a creeper dude at the campsite and they were going to move. He was too close and he was making them uncomfortable. He had left and come back with food and clothes. There was more in this article. Okay, then I saw the bunny cage under a tree and was pretty confident I'd found the girls. The tent door was open. It wasn't properly opened. It was kind of thrown open. I saw an article of clothing behind the tent, behind the tree. It just didn't feel right. So the discarded bottles of energy drinks, which I guess were Gatorade. We're going to get into that more in these other clips from the Molly Go Lightly. So I'll get that going. And the PI is Jason Jensen, and he is working on this case. And last I checked, besides this article, there was nothing new for that. But once again, YouTube with the interviews, this is pretty much, hold on, I gotta share my screen. Okay, yeah, this is the last update that we had got from law enforcement in the double homicide. And it's pretty much saying no additional information to release at this time in regards to the investigation on the case. And it says they're still continuing to investigate it and it's active and ongoing. But the Molly Go Lightly interview is with, I can't remember her name. I know Alex knows it, but she works with Jonathan Lee Riches, and they went to Moab, and he made a post on Twitter. It says Kylen Schulte and Crystal Turner went back to their campsite to get their rabbit Ruth with the intent to move. When Cindy Sue found Kylen deceased in the creek, Ruth was in the cage with no food or water. So it makes you wonder if it says the sheriff wanted to take Ruth to the pound. And he's been putting pressure. I've noticed on his Twitter page, he's tagging all law enforcement there. And he's pretty much saying or demanding like pretty much an update. And we want those satellite imageries to be released or at least given to the private investigator. And so anyways, Jonathan's friend is this, Andra. She's there with Molly. And they interviewed Cindy Sue. And then she went on Molly and they're talking about that experience with Cindy Sue. So that's what this whole segment here is going to be about. Hey, Amby. CDT said, I know Cindy Sue said she was stepping away from interviews and engaging in Facebook group. I feel so badly for her. Me too. You can tell. I almost feel like she had some sort of spiritual experience, like her saying that she was being told where to go and all that. And for her to stumble on the bodies, it's just like, it was almost like her fate, but it's a lot for her to carry right now.
It was peculiar because, we met with Cindy Sue Hunter, and we were able to hear firsthand what she experienced there when she found the girls, which was, I know it's got to be hard for her to keep talking about this, but she was willing to meet with us, and we're very thankful for her. I think the one thing that stood out is we thought Kylen was actually on the ground with her, like half of her body in this, and it's not really a creek. It's more of an irrigation trough. So the irrigation water runs through this 3x3 trough, right behind their camp. So it's not something that they would bathe in or anything like that. There's no reason for anybody to.
So I'm just going to pause it right there for a second. So this was interesting to me because when they kept saying over and over, yes, she was found in a creek, she was found in a creek, I kept thinking, like, were they there like bathing or whatever? Because I've gone camping and we've gotten, waterfront, and that's running water. If it's a stream, or whatever, it's okay to kind of bring a bar of soap to. It's just part of the experience. And they were camping, so I was like, is that where they were bathing and they were snuck up on there? Because as we know, they didn't have bottoms on. And but now that this woman has talked to Cindy Sue, she's explaining it, and she was there. She's saying that it's not like some area that you would do that in. And Sandy asked what was the temperature that night. I'm not sure, but that would be interesting and needs to be documented because that's sort of part of everything too. But I think that from what the information I've kind of uncovered is they are saying that she was moved after being deceased. So I'm thinking that she was moved, and I think that's sort of what Andra insinuates here. And you guys let me know if you get that feeling as well, that she was placed there after being shot at and killed.
Be in this trough. It was filled with algae. It wasn't something women would use to clean themselves up with. Maybe your feet, maybe you'd stick your feet in there to get mud off. But I mean, outside of that, I wouldn't let it touch anything above my above my knees. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so, at any rate, we thought she was partially on the bank and kind of at an angle into the water. And after meeting with Cindy Sue Hunter, it was like that. Her whole body was parallel inside the trough of water, almost submerged. And so that was, I got a picture of me kind of leaning into it. I got on the ground and put my body in there so we could try to get a picture of it. My body position was totally wrong after we met with Cindy Sue Hunter. And it makes you wonder why she was fully submerged into the water. Was it to remove DNA evidence? We don't know. It was just it almost looked like she was either placed there or pushed into there, from what, we're putting together. We again, don't know. This is all speculation on our part. That's what we have to do. We have to speculate. We have to put all these pieces of the puzzle. And then we find out that Kylen actually had something happen to her a few years ago when she was a minor. And she decided that she was ready to come clean with it. And she was ready to move forward and possibly filing an affidavit and prosecuting somebody for a crime that was committed against her. And this is a crime that could have gotten this person a lot of years in prison. And it makes you wonder, did this come into town and senselessly murder her because she was about to destroy this person's life? And so there's another possibility.
And I'm in some of the Facebook groups for this case, but I had never heard this theory being thrown around that she had like a somebody who had done her wrong and she was finally going to maybe get justice for it. I'm not sure the details. She's very, very vague about it, but you can only imagine. I'm almost assuming, but I don't want to assume but it may be something to do with SA possibly. I'm not sure. But if there was somebody who knew that Kylen was going to speak up and, they were facing prison or a reputation or life destroyed, would that make somebody kind of have like a vendetta to get Kylen murdered? But at the same time, they would have had to know where they were camping and, it would have to be a lot more than just, but it's interesting still that there's other possibilities, but I'm leaning towards the creepy guy.
The scenario that could have happened to these girls, and it was well known. This incident was well known to a few people, primarily Kylen's family, but it sounded like she was ready to take her life back, and part of taking her life back was speaking out against this crime that happened against her. And again, it was a serious crime that could have put somebody in jail for many years. So I don't know if that had anything to do with her untimely death. Put all these pieces of the puzzle together and paint a picture. We could never find, nobody has ever, other than the law enforcement, nobody's ever known the location of where they actually found Crystal, outside of it being up further in the irrigation trough. And the one thing I think that stuck out, and it didn't stick out at me at the beginning when we were hearing about, what the campsite looked like from Cindy Sue Hunter, was these Gatorade bottles. So some of these Gatorades come in those little plastic rings, so they stick them all, all together, whether it's a 6-pack or 8-pack, you know what I'm talking about, where you can just pick them up and they're in the little plastic rings, almost like beer rings, to hold the beer. Well, apparently there was these Gatorade bottles that were kind of just thrown about, and it looks like, and the only reason why I think of it like this is because I dropped Pepsi when we were walking out of the hotel room, which were also in those type of rings, and when they hit the ground, they kind of just popped out of those rings and kind of went everywhere in all different directions, and I had to go find them and pick them up, and obviously we couldn't open them up for a few hours because they were shooken up, whatnot. So when she was describing this, that's what it sounded like somebody dropped them and they just kind of went all different directions out of these rings. But it just doesn't seem like somebody's like probably thinking, so what? Somebody dropped the Gatorade bottles maybe when they were being chased by the gunman, right? Well, when we talked to all of her friends and everybody that knew her and Crystal, they didn't drink Gatorade, guys. They didn't drink Gatorade at all. Nobody has ever seen them drink Gatorade. They told me that it would be more possible for them to be getting, a case of water as opposed to getting Gatorade. They have never seen them purchase Gatorade or drink Gatorade. So I found that odd. So I'm wondering if that Gatorade, if they actually didn't pull up on somebody going through their stuff in their campground or whatever, I don't know what had happened. That's just one possibility. The Gatorade was an odd duck. It was the odd duck on the scene. So I'd like to get more information about that and find out if they did any DNA testing on those Gatorade bottles and whatnot.
So, CDT, she asked, do we know if the Gatorade bottles were full? See, this is the thing that I've heard it's unclear, but I swear in that Cindy Sue, which we should listen to together, CDT, I swear she did that one interview on that YouTube channel, and which I can't remember the name of it again. I think his name starts with an A, maybe. I swear she said that they were full. And then there's people who said, no, they were empty. So I don't know. I get the impression they were full, but again, I can't get 100% clear. I want to just share this article with you guys real quick because especially you, CDT, I just read, and maybe you've seen this already, because we have talked about how we think, but it's kind of been sort of unclear, that they were both essayed. Hold on. Okay, so this article is how many days old? It was posted on the 18th. All right, so it says Cindy Sue Hunter told ABC4, I think they thought they were safe. They knew they needed to move. They weren't comfortable, even though they made the offhanded comment that if they were murdered, it was him. I don't think they thought that was going to happen, or I don't think they would have went back up there. And remember, she said that the rabbit was in the cage still with no food and water, and that was the purpose of them going back, was they were gonna take care of the rabbit. So if the rabbit was still in the cage with no food and water, I mean, yeah, it was a few days, so maybe they did tend to the rabbit and then it ate all the food and water. But I don't know, if I'm feeling like, did they even make it to tending to the rabbit? You know what I mean? Did they even get that far? I don't know. Or was this like an attack as soon as they got back there? You know what I mean? So in this article, it goes on to say, it's talking about the affidavit for the search warrant, which we have seen information on, and I've done a live stream about it. It says they requested a tower dump from the cell phone towers right around there. It says could be limited to those phones that are only within 2 miles of the crime scene. Interesting. And everyone knows the Samsung cell phone found at the crime scene is unclear about who it belongs to. So this part here, the affidavit goes on to state the information is evidence of the crime or murders of conspiracy to commit murder, tampering with evidence, SA. This right here, which is why I kept saying I think that they passed and then they were moved after. Okay, Brooks, thanks for being here again. Yes, I'll give her a kiss. Love you. So yeah, that right there is why I think that she was moved. And then as you see the word after it, this is what was confusing to me, the order that this is listed. And then read it again. The affidavit goes on to state that the information is evidence of the crime or crimes of murder, conspiracy to commit murder, tampering with evidence, SA, and then that. So that was the reason why the judge was saying that they needed the cell phone records and all that, because it could contain evidence that is to this crime. So that sort of gives you a little bit more information about the crime, which we already kind of knew that it was that, but I don't know. It's just to see it. I just don't know. It's just terrible what they went through. And now Cindy Sue. Sandy said she thinks Brandy said she thinks that the Gatorade was full. Yeah, Sandy, I think because they had some wounds that were in the side of them too. You know, if they were running or at that point close range or whatever, and they're turning, not sure. So that was pretty much it. That was all I had to run by with you guys. Just for a little bit of a quick recap, Chris Watts' interview in the beginning clearly is like, we know he's guilty and he was lying in that interview. And in my opinion, we've seen the Laundrie Lawyer make similar body movements and face expressions. And it seems like the Laundries possibly could have made a deal. So a lot of people think that the Laundries possibly made a deal. And the fact that, Don Wells does the same sort of mannerisms and everyone feels like they know more, then it's just seems like a lot of stuff we need to uncover still. And hopefully we get some answers. We have gotten some more answers in the Brian and the Gabby case, but there's still a lot of questions left, especially with the notebook. Hopefully we can get more information on the Crystal and Kylen case as well as Summer. But as soon as any news comes in, I'll bring it to you guys. I really appreciate you guys being here and all your support. Please like this video. Make sure you hit the bell because YouTube sucks and they never, I get so many messages of saying that you guys didn't get notified that I went live. Mainly I've been going live Tuesday nights, but nothing ever is like set in stone. All right, so appreciate you all being here. And if you need updates, frequent back to my community page as well, because I've got updates there. Hi, Delaney. Okay, yeah, rewatch it because it's a blast from the past. Chris Watts is in the beginning. Has law enforcement given an update on Brian, or have we just heard from the lawyer? As far as right now, since before the stream, it was just the lawyer, but I can pull up Brian Enton's Twitter because he's always got the quick scoop. But yeah, no, and that's the other thing is it seems sort of unorthodox to get information from a case from the suspect, because I'm going to call him a suspect, the lawyer. That's the other thing is I was going to say. Thanks, CDT. You just reminded me. Can you hear me?
Rest of Brian's interview with Don Wells.
CDT, can you hear me? Can you hear me right now, CDT? Okay. All right, I'm just looking at Brian Enton stuff. I'm not seeing any updates. The last update is that same one. When Brian Laundrie was reported missing, his parents turned over all their firearms, but one was missing. That is according to the Laundrie family attorney. And everyone wants to know what gun was missing. Okay, now you can hear me. Good, 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 good. Yeah, no, there's no updates. Let me check Google real quick. No. No updates. CNN, Chris and Roberta Laundrie have been informed that the cause of death was a gunshot wound to the head and the manner of death was suicide. That was 3 hours ago to CNN. So yeah, that's it. CNN has reached out to authorities for further comment. Yeah, because that's what we were saying. It's sort of weird, and it almost makes you think more and more that they cut a deal, and possibly part of the deal is that they're allowed to say the narrative, maybe? I don't know. Would that be like a deal? It's just odd that the lawyer is speaking, and it does make you feel like they've been told that they can do the announcement or whatever. You know what I mean? You think so, Ace? I don't know. It's very odd. But yeah, no updates on that. So that's the thing is like we don't have any like we how long is it going to take for that notebook to get preserved and reformatted or whatever? It's just very strange. So many cases without answers. It's frustrating. Yeah, how would they know? Like, we need more information. I think we're gonna need more than just the lawyer coming out and saying it. Like, we're gonna need the autopsy and x-rays. And they better produce a gun. That's all I'm gonna say. Because there's just way too many, like, what? Oh, Vicky, earlier there was a former FBI agent that I played in some clips. She's pretty much saying that even if the ink was washed off, that FBI has mechanisms and ways that they can refurbish or preserve or make the words appear. But all right, so that's pretty much all I had planned with you guys. Thank you for being here. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone in America. I know Thanksgiving is on different days in other countries, but if I'm quiet for Thanksgiving time, I'll just be busy with the family. But I have new lives that I have planned for the future. I've got a Kurt Cobain death investigation live that I've got planned, and then I've also got a Chris Watts Mistress live that I'm going to have planned. It's solely kind of based around the Mistress specifically. And that those will be some future things to kind of circle back for. But that's pretty much it, guys. Just like this video, please, and I will talk to everybody soon. And have a wonderful Thanksgiving and weekend coming up.